If you've ever felt that traditional schooling is maybe missing something absolutely crucial about preparing kids for the actual realities of the modern world, well, you are going to love this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're decoding a truly fascinating educational blueprint called the Peconaqri Cell. We're going to break down exactly what this framework is, and just as importantly, what it isn't, using insights directly from its founder, Jin Lee. So let's jump right in by asking the big, central question that defines this entire Peconaqri philosophy. How does a young person become a conscious player in the game of life? Now notice how that completely shifts the focus away from just, passing tests or memorizing facts. Every serious educational framework has a sort of hidden answer to what a child actually is and what education is even for. Peconaqri's answer? It's all about intentional, conscious participation in life. To really understand this paradigm shift, we're going to map it out in 5 quick steps. Rethinking modern education, moving from NPC to PC mode, the canonical commitments, the Peconaqri quest cycle, and finally, what parents can expect. Let's get to it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Rethinking Modern Education, and moving beyond the traditional classroom.
Now, don't get me wrong, traditional frameworks do incredible work. The IB aims to form globally minded thinkers, and Montessori is fantastic for self-directed independence. But Peconaqri definitely sits in that same family tree. But it's built for a wildly different reality. It directly targets the elephant in the room. Teenagers today are navigating an era of unprecedented algorithmic distraction. It's not just about prepping for a math exam anymore. It's about figuring out how to handle their attention spans, the constant social media doom scrolling, and the invisible scripts that are quietly shaping their entire lives.
Which brings us right into Section 2, from NPC to PC mode. This is their core metaphor, and it's brilliant.
Look at this stark contrast here. It's literally ripped right out of a video game. Peconaqri operates on the conviction that a lot of people spend much of their lives just stuck in default mode, living as an NPC or a non-player character. They're just passive. They react. They inherit societal scripts without ever really questioning them, just kind of drifting through school and work. The entire goal of this education model is to help students practice the exact opposite, to help them level up into a PC, a player character, someone who is fully conscious, takes responsibility, and makes active, intentional choices. Okay, moving to Section 3, the canonical commitments. This is essentially the non-negotiable blueprint of the whole system. Commitment number 1 is awakening first, and I absolutely love how unapologetic this is. While academic excellence is for sure supported, it is not the ultimate purpose. The primary goal is a student who has actually woken up. A Peconaqri Center might help you get stellar exam results, but it flat out rejects reducing a student's worth to just an academic scorecard.
And that rolls perfectly into the second commitment, the whole cube. Think of a literal 6-sided cube. Peconaqri treats teenagers as complete human beings who need training across 6 crucial dimensions of life: self-expression, health, relationships, prosperity, community legacy, and nature stewardship. Because let's be real, a student's life isn't just lived sitting at a desk in a classroom, right? It's lived in their physical body, with their friends, and in their own private thoughts.
Commitment number 3 is absolutely crucial. It ensures the framework is strictly worldview-agnostic. Peconaqri doesn't push a religious agenda, and it doesn't push an anti-religious one either. The tools they use, like their 12-breath Peconaqri mantra, are designed entirely as secular awareness practices. There are no deities, no required beliefs. So whether a student is Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, or from literally any other tradition, they can use these tools to become more intentional while their family's personal faith tradition stays completely respected and untouched.
All right, jumping into Section 4, the Pika quest cycle. This is all about action over passivity. So their working motto here is that learning begins with a question and a project. Every single student has to complete at least one 10-week quest cycle. And they don't just read a textbook about it, they physically move through these 4 exact phases. First, they identify a real question. Next, they acquire the knowledge they need. Then they actually go face real-world action and difficulty. And finally, they have to produce a shareable creation. If a learning center is just handing out photocopied worksheets instead of guiding this rigorous journey from curiosity to creation, well, it's just not Peconaqri.
But how do they manage to guide kids through these complex quests? Well, the secret sauce is right here in this specific number, 6 to 8. That is the strict student-to-mentor ratio. Students are organized into small buddy pairs, getting individual mentoring every single week. This tiny, tight-knit mentor cell is where the real magic happens. because it's where the student is actually seen and challenged on a deeply personal level.
And here's a real line in the sand. They insist on physical presence. They're absolutely not trying to recreate some industrial classroom on a Zoom call. In fact, fully online programs cannot even qualify for their highest Tier 3 status. Why? Because that face-to-face intimate connection, that isn't just a perk, it's literally the product itself.
Let's bring it all home with Section 5, what parents can expect. A quick reality check.
So what does this actually look like on the ground? Well, on the included side, parents can expect a dedicated weekly mentor, full engagement with that whole cube of life we talked about, at least one real-world quest, and actually the embrace of AI as a structured thinking partner. On the excluded side, you will absolutely not find an exam coaching factory, passive content scrolling, or any specific political or religious indoctrination. The student's own independent thinking is always the star of the show.
This entire blueprint really culminates beautifully in this powerful quote directly from founder Jin Lee's foundational essays. Education shouldn't just be about passing tests. It is about the formation of a capable, conscious, adaptable, and purposeful human being. That is the ultimate goal. They aren't telling students to abandon formal study, they're just asking them to place it inside this much larger, much more meaningful frame.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. When you look at this framework, it's honestly hard not to reflect on ourselves. Whether you're considering your own daily habits or your child's educational path, are you drifting on default as an NPC, or are you consciously playing your own game of life? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep leveling up.